Listen up. Washington wants to make the biggest bust in U.S. history, Pablo Escobar, and his main distributor, Roberto Alcano.
Are you kidding me?
Responsible for 80% of the product flooding into the country.
Promise me this is the last one.
Great to see you again, Mr. Cranston.
Good to see you too again, Katherine.
Thank you. And this film, okay, you're back in the world of drugs.
Yeah, I don't have any in my real life, so I thought I'd do an abundance of them in my professional life.
But I mean, this is on the different side of the coin. This is very much this is a federal agent who really existed. So
Yeah.
This was a fascinating story.
It really was. Not only the plot
Yeah.
of how he infiltrated the Medellin cartel, and in so doing also brought down the 7th largest bank in the world at the time.
Yeah.
But also what really caught my attention is how did that man, that heroic, courageous man who risked his life and others for the greater good, how did he make the transition into also then, at the end of the day, being a husband
Yeah.
and a father, and helping the kids with homework or making sandwiches? I mean, the mundane aspect of family life compared to what he was dealing with on a regular basis, that vibrating fear.
I know.
It was astonishing to me how he was able to reconcile that.
And also the fact that he could live these two worlds and create this other character that created so much trust within this drug cartel, which was extraordinary.
And then, if
Yeah.
he's doing his job right, he has to take those friendships and purposefully demolish them by arresting those people he developed a relationship with over 2.5 years of an exchange of a friendship. And then put them in jail.
Yeah, that's what it was interesting about this, because even though they're the bad guys, you still get a sense of, oh my God, the loyalty and the friendship just got broken. How hard that must have been.
It's a betrayal of sorts. Even though you can justify that the means justify, the end justifies the means, but does your emotional core understand that?
Yes.
Your head does, but this was your friend, and this is how you feel, and all of a sudden, crush! That's done. It's like, oh! There must be a little bit of a shock to the system with that.
In my business, nothing good ever comes in the absence of trust. Without it, there is no loyalty. And when there is no loyalty, it never ends well.
The director, Brad Furman, is a longtime friend of mine, and he sent me the book. And immediately upon reading the book, I was struck by how cinematic the whole story is. And not surprisingly, it makes for an amazing film. It's the kind of story where it's so cinematic and so dramatic that it seems implausible.
Yeah.
It seems like an aspect of fiction. Even the way, the wrap up at the end, which we don't want to reveal here, by design, it seems like a film trick, but it wasn't.
And your character, on the one hand, it's amazing because even though he's a ruthless character in one way, with being immersed in the drug world, we also understand his family life and the friendship he developed and trust he developed with this federal agent who he had no idea was an agent.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that. Playing someone who's a member of a cartel or the leader of a cartel, it's somewhat familiar territory to me. I've done it in the past, but never with the kind of dimensionality or complexity that's afforded here, and that has to be credit given to the writers. I think part of the intent was to create with your protagonist and your antagonist a kind of mirror image of one another in terms of the integrity and the principle that each man must possess, not only for themselves and within themselves, but what they expect in the relationships they develop in the worlds they traffic in.
When you go through undercover training, you're taught about issues like role reversal, Stockholm syndrome, forgetting who you really are.
Is it good to know the real character when you're playing one, or is it make it a little tougher?
I think it can be. If in this case, Bob Mazur was extremely helpful and open, and desiring for me to get it right, get close to who the essence of who he was and what he was as a law enforcement officer, as a father, as a husband, and that balancing act. And so he was extremely helpful to not only me, but also to the storytelling itself and the overall concept of it.
It's interesting though, you see these stories and, you know, this happened in the 80s and yet we still have these drug problems going on and on. In some ways you think, was it a big achievement? It was, really, wasn't it? But in other ways, the problem keeps going.
Well, I think the key is not necessarily that anything stops a negative or an ill. What is important is that we attempt. The getting up every morning and making the effort is far more important than any actual accomplishing a finality to some evil.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Is that's what makes us human, to have that effort to do the right thing.
Have a chance to take them all down.